So, ladies and gentlemen, today on Sports File, we're going to be taking a very, very stern look at the Montreal Canadiens goalie problems of the late 60s into the Ken Dryden era of the early 70s. Now, the goalie problems unofficially led to them not making the playoffs in 1969-70. Maybe led to them losing in 67 to the Maple Leafs because, a certain goalie I'll get into very soon was considered a junior B goalie. But if I told you that the Montreal Canadiens had goalies like Gumper and Rogie Vachon and Tony Esposito and Phil Myre and Ken Dryden and Dennis DeJordy in their system one time or another with Michel Plas, Wayne Thomas, and Bunny LaRock, waiting in the wings or being scouted in the early 1970s, said, how come so many goalies and, how come they couldn't make a final decision? It came down to this. Now, Montreal had no faith in Gump Worsley at the tail end or the twilight of his career. He had been picked up from the Rangers for Jacques Plante, had led Montreal to several cups, but they also thought that maybe two goalies, Tony Esposito and Rogie Vachon, the junior B goalie I just referred to, might be the future Jacques Plante that he traded. Go figure, because Jacques Plante fell out of favor with management. Now, at the time, the Montreal Canadiens didn't need a pure number one to lead them all the way because they have relied on a capable backup in Charlie Hodge for a number of years. Now, Philip Myre, who was a growing value in amateur hockey, the juniors, he came under Montreal's radar as well. Michel Larocque was being scouted heavy, and like I said, Wayne Thomas and Michel Plas. And Dryden, of course, was a product of the Bruins that he traded to Montreal in 1965. So he had six or seven goalies in the pike, and here's where the problem comes in. He couldn't really decide what to do with all these goalies because so much talent was showing up in the late 60s and early 70s in amateur hockey across the states and Canada. A very good time for hockey. You had everybody from Guy Lafleur, Marcel Lyon, Gilbert Perreault, Richard Martin. Uh, you know, uh, the tail end of the great Marlboro teams. A lot of great players coming in, and you look at Jean Potvin. Denis Potvin, all these players. So what Montreal eventually did, which after '67, they eventually got rid of Gleb Worsley, passed him on to Minnesota for cash. They got rid of Esposito, who was a capable kind of semi-rookie. He had a great career with Chicago, with Team Canada as well. He let him go, I think, for $25,000, which is not much. Uh, they considered at one time trying out Denny DeJordy, who they picked up in a trade, and he didn't pan out. But in 1971, where Dryden finally arrived after that disastrous 69-70, where he had lost 7 games in mid-February to early March, where goaltending played a big factor. I guess he blew 7 games, either blew wins into ties or blew ties into losses. They had to do the goalie changes. Now, in '71, Vachon, Myre, and eventually Dryden. He went with Dryden in the playoffs, but that was the right decision. But management not giving enough thought to maybe deciding on two and sticking with it. Dryden was coming up from Cornell. We knew he was going to be at least a good backup. Maybe a 40-game guy, eventually became 50 games. But getting rid of Esposito, they should have kept him. Esposito wanted to play 70 games a season. That's allegedly why he was traded. Rogie Vachon wanted to play 50, 60 games a season, which was normal at the time. Maybe that's why he was traded. So he had too many egos and too many hard decisions to make. And it's comparable a little bit to when the Dallas Cowboys had multiple quarterbacks at one point when Troy Aikman, Steve Walsh, and a few other prospects showed up. You can have too much talent because it's too much of a head scratcher. But would have Montreal won all those cups with Esposito? Probably. Would have Montreal won up all those cups with Vachon? No, because he should have won in '67. You won all those cups with Dryden. So really, what they should have done is kept Esposito as a backup. Forgot about Larocque. But again, Esposito, like his brother Phil, Big Ego, he wanted to be the number one wherever he was, and he proved that in Chicago a number of years. And trading to Chicago at the time, Chicago wasn't to the level of not trading but selling Chicago. It rebuilt the franchise and strengthened the original six. So the passed talent to the other teams in the league. Notice he never traded any of these goalies to Toronto or let Toronto get these goalies. Vachon went to the Kings. DeJordy, Phil Myre was taken in an expansion draft by Atlanta. And DeJordy was left go as well. So you can see it was never to Toronto, it was never to Boston. Imagine if Boston had bought Esposito from Montreal. Imagine Esposito and Orr in the same team with Phil up front. The mind boggles. Again, it's a what if. But for me, management in 1970, they were playing too many cards at once. They couldn't make a final decision, and it paid for it. The reason they didn't make the playoffs in 1970, because they couldn't decide. You can't date seven beautiful women at once because at least one or two are going to be pissed off. That's a tribute to my uncle Bud. He taught me that. So on this COVID Monday, just a reminder to all the anti-Montreal Canadian listeners out there was a time, ladies and gentlemen, that every great up-and-coming goalie wanted to play with Montreal. Every one of them. Because you wanted to win. You didn't want to play with Toronto. You got the old men to play for Toronto. Or Boston stuck with Cheevers all those years. And Cheevers, of course, he was a Toronto prospect, but that's another story altogether. So again, stay safe, stay cool, and don't forget your curb checks are in this week, so don't spell it all in the same place. Have a good day. Bye.